what if instead of catching them all, we didn't catch any of them at all? In today's challenge, the challenge is simple, and it is this. Can you beat Pokemon Emerald without capturing a single Pokemon? The good old professor let me know that he was sorry for keeping me waiting, and I accept his apology. However, I do need a name for myself. But first, I need to figure out if I'm a boy or a girl. Now this is a difficult decision in today's society. Started my journey in the back of a truck. Child safety be damned. We're going to go ahead and move, and we're going to move in style, but we only got 2 seats up front, so get in the back, kid. I jumped out of the truck and was greeted by an overly enthusiastic mother, in which case I brought to her attention that there's no roads here, and I was curious how the truck got back here, but whatever. I went inside and realized that there's some Pokemon walking pretty erratically. Another one was humping the TV, so I was a little bit worried, and I went over to my neighbor's house and slept in her bed. When I went outside, I saw the professor being attacked by some type of monstrous raccoon, and I wanted to point out that in these type of runs, where you have no Pokemon to capture, you can spend all of your money on items, which really helps you out. After a little bit of training, and I do mean a very little bit of training, I was able to level up my Pokemon. You'll see that I have issues battling May. As the game gets a little bit further into it, it's not so difficult, but if you're going to take this challenge without leveling up your Pokemon, you might have a difficult time, because if you challenge your opponent and they happen to be a very, very strong grass type and you have a Mudkip, then the grass type moves are going to shred your Pokemon. This is where the move Mud Slap really comes into play and helps you out a lot. The more hits that the opponent misses, the better chances for survival for you. So try to keep Mud Slap throughout the whole playthrough. Piggybacking on what I said, Shroomish is one of the worst Pokemon to encounter in this game, because this game happens to include something called abilities, and Shroomish has Effect Spore, wherein whatever contacts it has a 30% chance to get an effect. Poison, paralysis, or sleep. This weird pirate tried to ambush me, and if I know anything about pirates, he was going to try and take my booty. One of the depressing things about this playthrough is that if you do not have 2 Pokemon, you cannot engage in these double battles here. Then I went straight to the gym, and because this gym is a rock type gym, it was extremely easy. It really should just be free XP at this point in time, because a water gun will take care of these opponents. And again, I didn't do a lot of grinding here, but just from facing the trainers that I did face with 1 Pokemon instead of 3 or 4 or 5, I was able to gather up all the XP and evolve my Pokemon before facing the gym leader. So, Mudkip evolved into Marshmallow here early on, does help out. And I kept Mud Slap because of what I said before about setting up. Challenge leader Roxanne, and here comes Nose Pass. When I challenge all the gym leaders or key trainers in this playthrough, I'm going to only show their most prominent or last Pokemon, because there's really no point in me showing off all their Pokemon. You obviously know if I got to their last Pokemon, I defeated their other Pokemon, and unless I include their battle here, there's really no reason to comment on it or talk about it, because it was probably very, very easy. So a lot of these trainers are very, very easy. There was only like once or twice through this entire playthrough where I really felt threatened, and I had some serious issues. However, bearing that in mind, the last Pokemon of all these trainers are the most difficult, and as you can see, I am not sweeping this Nose Pass like it's nothing. So the tactics come into play again, because this is the first generation where the NPCs will really start spamming potions even at lower levels. In the older generations, you would have people like Lance spamming full restores, and even at certain points in time, you would have trainers using hyper potions. But here, even early gym leaders will use potions on their Pokemon, which, granted, is annoying, but not impossible to deal with. Nose Pass is a good waller. Nose Pass is not a good attacker. As you can see, it survives 2 water guns, which is pretty crazy considering my level and the stab bonus I get from it. but at the same time, it still has yet to take me below half my HP for the entire battle, making this one of the easier gym leaders to overcome. I met up with that pirate that wanted to take that guy's goods, and I decided to beat his dog up with my more unique looking dog, shall I put it, my water ground dog. And I got a little bit of experience, grew to level 19, and that was that. And then I met up with the guy again. He demanded that I go and talk to his chairman for returning the goods that were so important, I guess. I don't know. Apparently he wanted me to do a favor for him. I didn't have the chance to just tell him no. Wouldn't you know it, May challenged me. Now, once again, May being one of the more difficult rivals here, she can really tear you up if you're not prepared for this battle. So I found that old guy that was bald, talking about his seagull, tripping about his seagull. He agreed to ferry me south. So I got into a boat with an old man that I did not know. I got HM05 from a hiker for reasons. Never used it because, surprise, surprise, certain Pokemon can't learn Flash, so I was lost in the cave with this small viewpoint. Found Steven, handed over the letter, and he gave me a TM that I literally did not care about because I couldn't teach it to any of my Pokemon. As soon as I entered the gym, I was lost again because I don't have Flash, and then I finally made my way to Brawly. Brawly's gym is a fighting type gym, so all of his Pokemon and his trainers were fighting type Pokemon for the most part, and they didn't put up a fight because they don't have much special defense. So a couple water guns, and that's all I needed. And here you are. As you're watching this, you can see that his Makuhito is also not putting up too much of a fight. The citrus berry being the biggest problem, and the random potion spamming being a big problem again. If this guy was able to get off a couple more hits, maybe 1 or 2 really good hits, he would have defeated me, but again, he's slower, so I was able to hit him first with 2 water guns and just end the battle. And with that, I got the second gym leader's badge. After I beat up a bunch of people in a cabin, this guy gave me some soda pop. That was nice. I stood in line with some Team Aqua Grunts, and one of them in particular had told me that he really wished he had brought his Game Boy Advance so he wouldn't be bored in line. I feel you, buddy. When I went into the museum, I found this scientist upstairs, and these grunts came out of nowhere, and they were just talking all kinds of crazy stuff, demanding ship parts, and I was like, you know, I'm not going to have any of this. At this point in time, it was about time that the pirates actually used Pokemon that were like from the water. So I fought a Carvana, and that was about it. Some dogs in Carvana. Now comes the event that precedes destruction. This May battle. It is legendarily known as one of the toughest May battles. And this is because this is the first time that you meet her evolved Pokemon form. In this instance, Grovyle. Now, Grovyle is a rough Pokemon to face, especially if you have a Marshtomp, but because Mudslap is infinitely useful, and even though the tactics are very, very grimy, I was able to cause him to miss 2 times and then tackle him to death. We have a guy who is a wannabe rival challenging me to a Pokemon battle, and he also only has 1 Pokemon. I'd respect him, but I hate him too much to do that. And with 1 well-placed Mudslap, his Pokemon was done. I mean, really, I just slapped mud at him and his Pokemon fell over dead. I walked into the gym. His name is Watson, which is a play on words of Watts. He called out his Manatrak. I was confused from his previous Pokemon, but again, because Mudslap is a double advantage against Pokemon like Magnemite and Magneton, it's not very difficult to take them out, but they do have attacks like Supersonic, so my Pokemon was confused, and I hurt myself in confusion, but not before I got 1 Mudslap off. Manatrak can be a very, very difficult Pokemon to take on as well, especially if you don't have a ground type. If you have a ground type, you're golden in this gym, obviously, but at the same time, he's still a very powerful Pokemon if you don't happen to have a ground type, or your Pokemon are just very underleveled. At this point in time, the main annoyance for me was the citrus berries that all the gym leaders keep on their main Pokemon, and they just keep healing themselves, but every single time he restores his Manatrak's HP with a super potion or a citrus berry comes up, it doesn't help him ultimately because he's still losing accuracy every round. At this point in time, he's 4 Mudslaps in. so he's not going to hit anything, even if he continued to heal his Pokemon. And as I state that, he literally hit me with a quick attack, so that's nice. But at the end of the day, it really didn't matter. Great, thanks for making me seem like a liar. I got myself a bicycle, learned to do some cool tricks, went to the casino, became addicted with gambling again. So I ran into a family and I decided to slaughter all their pets with my weird dog that spit water, and they were cool with that. They invited me in. I told them no thanks and left. This is one portion of the game where it requires you to have an HM. If you happen to have a starter Pokemon that can't use Rock Smash, you're not going to be able to progress forward. And here, mine evolves into Swampert. I've been waiting to get Secret Power. As soon as I got it, I instantly taught it to Swampert. This is one of the best moves that there are in this game. Then some pirates broke up the party and told me to ride the sky lift up to the volcano. And so I was like, okay, sure, why not, you know, I'd like to go up to an active volcano. My face isn't going to get melted off from the heat. That's fine, whatever. You know, I'm not a geologist. I don't know anything. I'm just a kid. Yep, Maxie wanted to battle me. He sent up a camel that looked like a volcano. And so I missed with Muddy Water. This is why Surf is infinitely better than Muddy Water. Muddy Water is great because it has the effect of also lowering accuracy. However, at the same time, if you can't hit with it because it's not 100% accurate, then in and of itself, it is extremely ironic. This old lady gave me an egg. This egg is pretty awful in Emerald version. In the other versions, I believe it hatches into a really useful Pokemon, but in this one, it hatches into a Wobbuffet, which is an okay Pokemon to use. After baking in the sand, I decided to go after the gym leader. After a nice weird teleportation puzzle, again, I was challenged by Flannery. Her main ace is Torkoal. Torkoal has Body Slam and moves like Overheat, and again, Muddy Water misses, giving it the opportunity to use Sunny Day, which is a problem because Sunny Day halves the power of water type moves. After a couple moves, after a couple attacks, I had decided that the best tactic would be to use Mud Slap instead, and it did use its trademark Body Slam, but because of my high level, because this is my only Pokemon, I again am so over leveled at this point in time, this battle isn't difficult, and Mud Slap is doing substantial damage, even if it is super effective. Torkoal has Clear Smoke, so Mud Slap will not lower its accuracy. Nothing will lower its stats because it's Clear Smoke is its abilities, and it used Attract on me, which I was shocked about. Attract causes your Pokemon to fall in love with the opposing Pokemon. It is a 50-50 shot whether you hit it or not. It is just as horrible as Paralysis, and it is a very good stall tactic. But he hit, and I got the Fire Badge. May decided that it was time for me to have some Go Goggles. Thanks, May. You've always been down for me. I used my bike to go up this weird sand tower, got a Claw Fossil. I guess it was time to challenge my dad, to which I did. All of his Pokemon trainers are normal types, and they all suck. They're all about some type of status. They're all about some type of move, but ultimately they were just awful. They're terrible. So, his final Pokemon is a Slacking. He has a Vigoroth and 2 Slacking, I believe. And his Pokemon are pretty difficult. They're pretty strong. At this point in time, I had to use Strength on him, and he countered me for almost my full HP. This was almost a 100% counter knockout. I was extremely worried about if I was going to be able to defeat him or not, because one Strength didn't finish it. But Slacking has a bad ability which prevents him from attacking every turn. He can only attack every other turn, and so he has counter, but he does not have any counter for special attacks. He doesn't get Magic Coat, and I was able to get the normal badge. And my neighbor bribed me by giving me HMO3 to watch out for Wally. I told him you're insane. I used Surf to cross that little water portion, met up with Steven, and I was off to the tall grass yet again. I found the Weather Institute and 2 Team Aqua Grunts were guarding the bridge, so I couldn't progress until I went in here. So I went in here and I found a shaggy dog who swaggered me and made me really, really angry. and confused also, which is fine. That's fine. It's fine. It's not a big deal. A couple rock smashes later, this Pokemon was hurting. This Pokemon was dead from a secret power, and that takes out the admin of the area. I got a Castform, nicknamed it exactly what it should be named. Castform is one of my least liked Pokemon, just to the simple fact that you constantly have to have weather in play to make them a viable use. During this battle, I decided to use free trash, but it just didn't work out that well. So yeah, I ended up having to pull out Given again. Continuing north, I found a city in the trees. I talked to Steven. He showed me that there's invisible chameleons, to which I had to beat the crap out of with my weird dog again, and floating set of tits. Whichever one I felt like at the time I could use. I do like Kecleon. I think it's a pretty unique normal type, but it's very underwhelming in the game, unless that's a mystery dungeon you're playing and you attempt to steal something. And then I challenged the gym leader, and that was that. This gym leader was a flying type anyways. It's Ace in the Hole is a very difficult Pokemon. A lot of people find it very difficult to deal with this Pokemon because it is a flying dragon type, and at this point in time, they might not have their Pokemon trained up to the point I have mine trained up at. I went into a mountain that is called Mount Pyre, which is also dedicated to the dead spirits of Pokemon, and a lot of graves. Man, they really get a fetish with making towers to the dead. May wanted to battle me at the department store, so I said, yeah, sure, no problem. She had a Pelipper this time. Yeah, I guess she got tired of her Seagull getting the crap beat out of it, and my dog, once again, paralyzed her Pelipper on the ground, so now her Pelipper is handy-capable. That's great. I bought a couple moves for my Pokemon. I have Castform here, learning Blizzard, because Hail will permit Blizzard to become extremely more accurate. I continued forward and realized that I had a couple things that I needed to do, namely find Team Magma's hideout. Gee, I wonder where a place could be that would be named after Magma. Maybe the giant volcano had something to do with it. Maxie, once again, a little bit colorblind here, couldn't figure out that he actually needed the red orb to control Groudon instead of the blue orb, and just ended up pissing off Groudon, who instantly flew through the roof. I found the Team Aqua hideout, did a weird teleportation puzzle straight out of Generation 1, which sucked, and then I promptly found the Master Ball just laying on the floor. Why the leader wouldn't have this for when he found the legendary Pokemon and encountered it, I don't know, but I don't need this trash. Get this trash out of here. I promptly threw it away. I said, cool story, bro, and just continued on to the next gym, which happened to be twins. Now, these gym leaders are psychic-type gym leaders. My free trash, he's really damaged, man. And in double battles, when you use an attack that hits two opponents, it lowers that attack almost by half, if not exactly half. And so you don't do as much damage at all. So that's why it was so difficult for me to take down Xatu and Claydol, despite me being 20 levels higher. I couldn't just one-shot him in one move. Now, bearing that in mind, one Weather Ball from Free Trash took out Solrock, basically because he's a rock type. And again, Solrock is the one that isn't really special defensive, and it's also raining, so it got a double stab boost from typing in the raining. Yeah, basically they said, because Groudon took off, check this out, this is their plan. They're gonna dump a bunch of rocket fuel into the volcano and expand the land by causing a volcanic eruption. Genius. Absolutely genius. Steven gave me the dive HM again, and HM required to beat this game, so you need a water Pokemon. And if he's your starter, man, it sucks. I promptly had him forget Rock Smash because that sucks. Taught him dive. He dived down below. I found the location that was necessary for the escaped submarine, which also is a yellow submarine, which I believe it's a homage to the Beatles with the We All Live in Yellow Submarine, or potentially Earthbound, where there's a yellow submarine, which could also be a homage to the Beatles. In this section of the game, Strength is required, and Rock Smash is required, and also Surf and Dive. So you have 4 HMs at the same time which are required, which means if you only had one Pokemon, you would have to have all 4 slots containing HM moves, which sucks and is not fun. Archie, he had the red orb, didn't learn from Maxie's mistake of not being able to control Groudon, and decided to wake up Kyogre, and he promptly flew through the ceiling also. This was Team Aqua's vision. He's giving me all kinds of exposition. Yes, this was Team Aqua's vision. It woke him up, and now all the place is going to become soaked in water, and we're all going to be pirates sailing the 7 seas. So I'm only keeping this in so that you actually know what the story is. Both of these guys are at odds because they want either the land to be expanded or the sea to be expanded. I don't really understand their goals, just to be perfectly frank, and I think all of them are insane. Clinically insane. So when you get up to the top, this is pretty cool because this is the first generation where a lot of things change around because of your actions, quote unquote. But you can see that things are a little bit different. Some of the water is drying up, and then in other places the water is deeper. So it's raining and then it's sunny, so it's crazy weather, right? So you're actually seeing the byproduct of waking up these legendary Pokemon. Then if you actually go into the city, you can see these Pokemon battling it out, and you get this really cool cinematic. And I gotta give it to him, man. I believe Groudon is not doing well here, man. He's got this tiny little chunk of land, and Kyogre got all this water around him, and Groudon is weak to water. So basically they tell me to go to Sky Pillar, and I have to go and wake up Rayquaza, because if I don't, the end of the world will happen. And I actually do it, and I find Rayquaza just taking a nap, and we have this mini cinematic of what I imagine Rayquaza as Jesus would be, flying down from heaven. Oh my god. And God said, "Let there be light," and send his only begotten dragon, Rayquaza. And thus he came down from heaven and said, "Ah!" How am I not a writer for Game Freak? Somebody tell me, please. Anybody. After the event, as I said before, the world is reset and you're just back to what you had before. The final gym leader here, which has a very strange passion sense. His most difficult Pokemon is the same Pokemon as the previous generation, Kingdra. Kingdra being a Dragon Water type with Double Team, the ability to set up. This is a tough battle. If you allow him to set up, it becomes a very serious problem, so you must be cautious in how you handle this. If you take too long, he will eventually set up on you. And because my guy's a water ground type, his water attacks are normal base damage, which sucks, again, because the only other attacks I have are currently Rock Smash and Strength. Yeah, there's some moves that you can offload to another Pokemon, like for example your fossil Pokemon, you can teach Rock Smash, but other than that, you really don't get anything with Castform and Wobbuffet. So here, I'm again stuck with the very simplistic moves and just being over-leveled to win the battle. So I decided to swim up and realized that I need the HM Waterfall. So I promptly deleted Dive, because Dive is only needed for that one small part, and climbed the waterfall. When I entered the cave, Wally was the first one to challenge me, and apparently he got a backbone because now he has like 5 or 6 Pokemon, and I still have my 3. His toughest being Gardevoir, the original Pokemon he captured, which seems to be more of a waifu than a child scientist with a giant tumor growing out of its head, but hey, whatever, what do I know. The tumor became its bra, I guess, or chest piece, or whatever. I don't know, man. Well, I don't even know what Gardevoir is. It's this weird psychic sentient being that wants to protect its trainer, and it's pretty cool for that. I give him props for creating something other than Alakazam, but it's basically Alakazam for this generation. I got lost in this cave again. Now there's a dark flash puzzle that also requires you to use strength. How fun! If it's not enough to have all the HMs being used basically at one point in time, you want to do it with Flash also, which isn't an HM. So here's a final look at the Pokemon I have. Here come the Elite Four battles. The first one up being the Dark type user Sydney. I believe his name is Sydney. He's been forgotten at the time. Not a lot of people remember Sydney. Groudon is a difficult Pokemon, to battle against. It's a dark water type. I believe it's a very strong opponent as well. So I have myself free trash here battling it. Once again, I do want to kind of break it up and not just have my starter constantly being used. So I'm really pushing for Castworm to actually be useful, and it will be because of Rain Dance and the Thunder combo. So this is great, and you're going to see exactly what I was talking about earlier. So I hit with Thunder, and because of the level difference, I am able to take down Crawdaunt. But don't ever get confused, Castworm is still one of the most trash Pokemon that you can get in the game. I believe Eradicate would be more useful than it. So I continued on, and the second Elite Four member is Phoebe. I believe Phoebe. Her name is based on the word phobia, which is derived from a phobia or a fear. And a lot of people fear the unknown and fear death, which would be ghost-type Pokemon fearing death. So I believe that's where her name comes from. Her most challenging Pokemon and her signature Pokemon is Dusclops, which is what it was originally in Generation 3, and it does later on become Dusknoir with the Reaper Cloth, making it a more viable ghost Pokemon. But this one is a Waller, whereas Gengar is more of the glass cannon. This one can take a hit, a couple surfs, and it's no problem. So the next trainer is the Ice-type Master. Glacia here, her signature Pokemon is Glalie, which is a ice Pokemon that evolves from Snorunt. At this point in time, almost any attacks can sweep their Pokemon, the Elite Force Pokemon, no matter what the Pokemon is. Earthquake is just so overpowered, and it's getting a stab bonus from the ground typing. It's really good. So she was finished, and it was on to the last Elite Four trainer, Drake. Drake has Dragon Pokemon, what a shock. Most of his Dragon Pokemon are pretty susceptible to ice moves, which is why I have free trash here setting up. So I was able to set up Hail beforehand, and if you do have Hail in place, Blizzard or Weather Ball will work very, very well. Now, his Salamence did have Flamethrower, which is super effective, but it doesn't gain a stab bonus, so I was able to survive and tank the hit. Weather Ball being 4 times effective against it, with the stab bonus from the weather being in play as well as the typing, Salamence was no match. So we made it to the champion. This is the final countdown, as it were. This is exactly what I worked so hard for. And at this point in time, I really have 3 Pokemon. I'm not really even sure why I brought Rock Smash along. It's not even a sacrifice because I still haven't lost a single Pokemon yet. If this was a Nuzlocke run, I would have beaten it without losing a single Pokemon. None of my Pokemon fainted during this run. So I'm going to go ahead and allow you guys to see all of his Pokemon, whereas in every other battle I decided to cut it short and only show the main Pokemon that the trainer would use, the final Pokemon. In this one, I've decided to show all the Pokemon because this is the last battle. Wailord is going to start off using Water Spout. I'm going to start off using Rain Dance. And just as I said before, if this were a Nuzlocke run, I would have not lost anyone, but I did lose someone because Water Spout is so very, very strong. I believe it's way above 100 power. It's 100% accurate. Rain is in play, making it stab bonus, plus its water typing, another stab bonus. This is Wailord's signature move, so of course I really got hurt bad there. I use an Earthquake, Wailord survives it, but as you can see, the less HP you have with Water Spout, the less damage you do, so he only did 1 HP damage to me because he only had 1 HP left, I suppose, maybe close to it. I would also like to comment that Wailord looks like a boat right now. I don't know if they intentionally made Wailord look like that in the Emerald version, but he does look like a boat. I get a higher roll this time, and 1 Earthquake does Wailord in. Water Spout is a very difficult move to predict and counter, so if you know a Pokemon's going to use it, don't make the same mistake I made and be like, oh, it'll be alright, I'm just going to go ahead and set up. No, you're going to get destroyed. So rain continues to fall, and I decide to take on the next Pokemon, Ludicolo. Ludicolo has Double Team. Double Team is very, very nasty for setting up. Again, it is very advisable you take out Pokemon before they can set up more Double Teams on you. One critical hit strength took out his Ludicolo. I was not really concerned that I was going to not be able to take it out, but you do not play with RNG. You do not mess with chance in this game. If your Pokemon has the opportunity to be set up, it will be set up upon, and so you should be very, very cautious and careful when doing that. He sends out Tentacruel. Tentacruel uses Toxic, toxifies me, so I am now badly poisoned, but I am set up for an X attack. I'm not too concerned about this because now I have 5 turns to defeat him. I'm going to go ahead and use a Dire Hit and pump myself up. He uses Hydro Pump. Tentacruel is a really, really good Pokemon, but is good special defense-wise and not so much special attack-wise. I'm going to go ahead and use X-Speed to make sure I get the first hit. Always also, he's going to use another Hydro Pump, and unless he gets a critical hit, he will not defeat me. And so I go ahead and use a full restore, because now I am ready and set up, and I'm not concerned about losing my Pokemon anymore. Free Trash is gone, dead. Nuzlocke rules, he's finished. Unless I really wanted to revive him and use him at the end as kind of an insult, but we'll see what happens. I think I'm just going to take him out. I have 1 X attack, 1 Dire Hit, and 1 X speed. No critical hit. A critical hit would have finished him. I believe he heals his Tentacruel again. So I don't feel bad at all about using any type of full restores here. At this point in time, there's no point in feeling bad about using full restores when the enemy is spamming full restores over and over again. This time, Dire Hit kind of comes into play, and I'm able to get that critical hit and defeat his Tentacruel. His next Pokemon is Wishcash. Wishcash is very, very bulky, so I go ahead and hit it with an Earthquake. The stab bonus with the X attack and Dire Hit in play. I'm hoping for a critical hit that will finish it. And I don't need a critical because that was just strong enough to defeat it straight up, which is great. And then the next Pokemon coming up being Gyarados. Gyarados is a very, very difficult Pokemon to handle. It's a bulky Pokemon that is very, very strong. It's a hard-hitting Pokemon. So his Intimidate cuts my attack, and I'm going to go ahead and use Guard Spec to prevent my stats from being dropped anymore from his Pokemon. If his Pokemon decide to use Leer or something, he's just going to Dragon Dance. I'm going to bulk my Pokemon up again because I am particularly worried about him setting up at this point in time. He's going to Dragon Dance again, which means he's double attack, double speed at this point in time raised. And then I'm going to get to work on bashing him with some strength. He's triple Dragon Dance, which means he's now 3 attack, 3 speed up. This is turning into a situation that would be very, very rough. 1 strength critical hit saved me. He probably would have used Hyper Beam and could potentially have knocked out my Given here, which leads to the last Pokemon, Melodic. Melodic is a very defensive Pokemon with the ability Wonder Scale, I believe, and its defensiveness is great, but it still can't manage to take me out with 1 Surf Attack. A Surf Attack being very, very deadly for people. People taking this on with Pokemon that are underleveled or even just slightly higher leveled. This Pokemon is still very, very difficult to take on. I finished it with an Earthquake, and that is game, ladies and gentlemen. I defeated Champion Wallace. That would mean that I am now the champion of the Hoenn region by capturing not a single Pokemon. In fact, these 4 Pokemon are the only Pokemon that I got through my entire playthrough. I could have beaten this with only my starter if I wanted to. I like a little bit of variety, so I tried to mix it up, even though the Pokemon sucked that I was using. They just suck so bad. Really only the starter and God, maybe 1/10 of the time I use Castform. One of the funny things is when you're watching these end credits here and you're watching them go, you'll notice that you're only seeing Pokemon that I've had And this is what it does. It tries to show you the Pokemon that you've captured, the Pokemon that you form these great bonds with over the time. But you're supposed to have like more than like 9-ish, including evolutions. I think I've got a grand total of 6 or 7 because of the evolutions. So I had Marshtomp, Mudkip, and Swampert, Anorith, Castform, and Wobbuffet. So yeah, 6 Pokemon. And it's just spamming the same 6 Pokemon because it doesn't have pictures of any other Pokemon that I've captured. So I think that's very, very funny. It just keeps spamming the same pictures again. Yeah, remember these guys? You can hit that bell on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed here. You're welcome to join my Discord, where I also post the stuff that I do, and you'll never miss out if you're part of the Discord. And let me know what you think. It was basically a Nuzlocke. I never lost Swampert. The only Pokemon that died was Castform, and it died at the end. Very similar to my Gen 1 run. If you guys would like to see the Gen 1 and Gen 2 run, I'll go ahead and put links there, or cards that will pop up, and you can click on those and check those out. But at the end of the day, I did it. And I will see you guys in the next video.